is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. And Muhammad is not a prophet. Muhammad is not a prophet. If you want grace and mercy and love, Islam is not for you. But Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the King of Kings who died to save us all. If you just repent and believe He took your sins on the cross, then mercy and grace, forgiveness and love, eternity can be yours. But Allah is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. And Muhammad is not a prophet. Muhammad is not a prophet. If you want grace and mercy and love, Islam is not for you. But Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the King of Kings who died to save us all. If you just repent and believe He took your sins on the cross, then mercy and grace, forgiveness and love, eternity can be yours. But Allah is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. And Muhammad is not a prophet. Muhammad is not a prophet. If you want grace and mercy and love, Islam is not for you. But Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the King of Kings who died to save us all. If you just repent and believe He took your sins on the cross, then mercy and grace, forgiveness and love, eternity can be yours. But Allah is a false god, a false god, a false god. Allah is a false god, a false god. If you want grace and mercy and love, Islam is not for you. But Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the King of Kings who died to save us all. If you just repent and believe He took your sins on the cross, then mercy and grace, forgiveness and love, eternity can be yours.
Hallelujah. Let Lord Jesus Christ shine forth. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us. Welcome to another live stream with DCCI Ministries. And tonight our plan is to look at the documentary which was put together, I think, last week by GBN News on grooming gangs in Britain. We want to go through the documentary and see who failed where, what we can learn, and also make little bit noise for the victims, since it's been going on for a couple of decades and no one wants to talk about it. And thank you very much everyone who is joining us in the chat and in the room. I'm doing house invasion. I'm doing house invasion. I have got on my one side Dot of Christ. Peace of Christ be with you, sister.
And with you, sister. Lovely to be here again with you, sister. How are you?
By God's grace, I'm good, thank you. Why don't you be double kind and then speak approximately 60 seconds for us to do sound check?
Good evening, everyone. Hi, it's Daughter of Christ. I'm so blessed to have my sisters here. It's an all sister live stream. First time ever, I think, all sister live stream. Is it?
I haven't told the other guests. You can't just give tips out.
Oh, sorry.
Talk about something else.
Two sister live stream for now. Good evening, Patriot 316. And is my sound good? Hi, Sunny Sparkles. The sound of music.
Sound is good. Thank you very much, beloved. And on my other side, I do have another sister. We will call this Sister M, because we are just going through the alphabet. Peace of Christ be with you, Sister M.
Peace of Christ be with you also, sister.
Why don't you be kind enough and then tell me how awesome I am for 60 seconds, and then we do sound check.
Again with the awesomeness.
Yeah, you can do that,
She
or just
demands
take
it all day long. You are so beautiful.
Okay,
it is
now.
amazing.
Okay, let's focus now. Why don't you be kind enough and then just tell us a little bit about yourself, less than 60 seconds, so that will help us to do sound check.
Okay. I'm a Christian. I am no one very special, but special in the eyes of the Lord. I have been spending today cooking a lot of pasta, like extremely large amounts of pasta, which has all been consumed. So good sign that it went well.
Okay. And no one is dead. That's a good sign.
No one is
Success
dead.
of the food. Yet there is no evidence she cooked pasta.
It's all gone.
There's still no evidence. Can we just get confirmation that Sister M's sound is okay for you? You were able to hear her. That will be very helpful if you can do that, because we've got only one computer and everyone is just hijacking around the computers. So I'll take silent as sound is good. Okay. Thank you, everyone who didn't confirm. Okay. So Sister M is also doing house hijacking. Everyone is doing house hijacking, and we did have Jai apologetics, but he thinks this topic is like so stressful. So he chooses to be live audience. And we can see he's still working on his moves. Okay. So in Britain, there is something still happening. It's not part of the history. It is still happening, and there is kind of big pressure to not talk about it. There are certain people try to make noise about it. They were easily shut down. Those of you who are following DCCI channel, probably you assume what we are talking about. We are talking about Britain rape gangs or Britain grooming gangs. Apparently, it's been expressed that group of Asian men was hunting down white children, using them for their sexual pleasure, making money from them, and then passing them around. There are some cities in Britain kind of came on the news. Rotherham, Telford was another city come up. Over 20 cities has been mentioned on the news, from Slough to Bunbury to north of England to borders of Wales, that this so-called Asian man is hunting down white girls and using them for their sexual pleasure and making money from them and then passing them around. If anyone complains about it, people are being hurt. It has been expressed that somehow magical things happened. Police didn't give enough attention. Police turned blind eye. Councils turned blind eye. Social services turned blind eye. In some occasions, families turned blind eye. And today, In Britain, we've got approximate 300,000 girls who is being groomed. Sadly, that number is not for sure. That should all shake us because we don't even know how many girls are being groomed. When you speak about it, apparently bad things happen to you. And last week, GBN News, Charlie Peters put an approximate 45 minutes video kind of going through the history and who shared what happened. We want to go through that documentary together. I don't think we will finish all of it today, but we can have part 2, part 3, even part 4. It's going to be very stressful. It's going to be very stressful if you are valuing the life of human beings. It is going to be stressful for you if you are valuing the life of child. It is going to be stressful if you are against prostitution. It is going to be stressful for you if you can't stand broken family. It is going to be stressful for you if you cannot stand when there is injustice. So I'll give you the warning, and if you think yes, it's going to cause me stress and it's going to cause me stumble, I'll just gently encourage you to please do not watch it. But beware, there are the things still happening in Britain. Still happening in Britain. The reason I expressed this is done by Asian grooming gangs. Hopefully you will pick that up on the article or on the documentary as well. And you will notice none of those people are going to be from China. None of those people are going to be from what is the other Asian? Japan, Thailand.
No.
It's going to be just one group of people, mainly from the certain religion people. Let's name the names. So it's going to be Pakistani men, and it's going to be Pakistani Muslim men. Pakistani Muslim men. Okay, that's what you are looking for. And probably you already start thinking, if it is Muslim men and it is Pakistani Muslim men, did they all turn up to be crazy? Or is there anything from their scripture can support what they've done? They're not all crazy. They are all sinner who needs to repent. And they simply follow the teachings of their book. We will kind of bring that up as we follow the documentary. Before I pull up the documentary, if you want to get our attention on the topic which we are discussing, please put @ in front of DCCI Ministries. And we've got 3 of us here. Hopefully we will pick up what you are saying, how you want to jump into the conversation. But before that, beloved, do you want to add any intro before we start the video? I know it's been painful to watch it.
Just want people to pray for the victims. There are thousands of them. As you're watching, just pray for them. And of course, we know, the reason why. There is a lot of basis for it in the Quran and Sunnah. So just ask people to pray and pray for ourselves as well as we tackle this subject, which is difficult for all of us.
Okay, thank you. Sister M, any kind of thing, any feelings you would like to share before I start the video?
No, just reiterating what both you sisters said. It's a very difficult topic. It's horrible to watch or hear. So it's just be warned.
Yeah. It's horrible to listen. It's horrible to watch. But I think as a Christian, we are kind of stepping in because there are victims. And everyone is ignoring what is happening. So we want everyone to be aware of these horrible events, beware of the victims, and then everyone to do their part. Since police is failing, social services failing, families are failing, everyone is failing, someone needs to step up. Ready to go?
Yes,
okay, so what we will do is I'll play a little bit. If anyone wants to stop in any point, just verbalize it. We pause and then we comment on it. Okay, let's go.
And trafficking. The content may be upsetting for some viewers. A decade ago, people in Britain woke up to shocking news. In the small northern town of Rotherham, 1,400 young girls had been groomed, abused, trafficked, and raped.
I can't tell you how many rapes that I've had.
And I want to see chief constables, I want to see senior officials held legally to account for their neglect of duty.
When I was still 14, Andrea took me to the promenade in the town where we met the Pakistani kebab house workers, and then 5 or 6 of them gang raped me.
I was locked in there for 10 weeks.
The abuse had gone on for decades, and nobody responsible had been punished. The police and council had turned a blind eye to the abuse, or even blamed the raped girls.
That we sit here today in 2022 and not one person has ever been held accountable for what happened in this town.
Most of the victims were white. Most of the abusers were ethnically Pakistani. Fears of being seen as racist had contributed to a cover-up.
They were failing them because they were prioritising social cohesion over the victims of actual crimes.
Over the following years, similar stories emerged across the nation of underage girls abused in taxis, kebab shops, and housing estates.
There were 3 kebab houses in the town, and they all knew each other, and they linked up when they raped me. They were all linked.
But some have said that the story has been overblown, even that it's racist.
People in positions of authority have always been frightened of being called racist. The racial dynamics are irrefutable. There's always been tiptoeing around that fact.
My name is Charlie Peters. I'm a journalist and documentary filmmaker with GB News. And I want to know why this happened, why the authorities did so little to stop it, and whether that is still going on today. To find out the truth about the grooming gang scandal, I had to go back to the beginning. It started with a journalist at the Times called Andrew Norfolk. He first encountered the grooming gangs in 2003, when Labour MP Anne Cryer revealed local concerns about Asian men targeting teenage girls outside school gates. He admitted later that a story about ethnic minorities targeting white girls felt like a far-right fantasy. Liberal guilt kicked in, so he wrote one story and dropped it.
Okay, I'm gonna pause here in the intention, well, you don't want to publish the reality and history. Why? Because you think it is far-right ideology. I'm pausing that for people to think about it. So there is something happening, okay? There are children are being victim, and journalist is aware of it because a member of the House of Parliament expresses concern. Journalist looks into it and then says, oh, I don't need to do much about it because this is just far-right ideology. So we turn blind eye to crime because you don't like their political view, or you don't want it to come under any political label. Beloved, any thoughts so far what we heard?
It's basically people looking out for themselves. They knew full well that if they wrote something on it, the protected group will use the victim card and pretend to being victimized, and people didn't want trouble from that side, so they backed away and they turned a blind eye, like you say. They didn't care for the young children that are being groomed outside the school gates. Those Pakistani men were waiting to groom them. And it was not just an isolated case, it was, as we will see later, hundreds and thousands of these young girls. It's basically what they care about the most is themselves. And I don't know about this far right thing. It became, this political correctness is becoming like a monster that's victimizing children. And what do you think?
So in here, as he expresses this myths with the far right ideology, he means there are a group of Muslims who are attacking British people, British girls, not girls, even children.
Right.
So if you are standing up for children, you are under the label of political wing. Okay, you are far right. Therefore, you don't want to talk about it. Why? Because the criminals are certain from certain religion. So in here, I think being far right should be compliment. Yeah, in a sense, yes. The people, if you are standing up for the rights of kids and you are labeled for far right, I'll take that as a compliment.
That's not what far right is.
That's changed now, sister. Things are changing.
It's the power of the protected group to use labels against people.
Yeah.
And it's basically what they've been doing. They've always been doing this against anyone. You criticize anything about their religion and you're Islamophobe and racist, even if it's just extended to children now.
So expressing the facts in this occasion, for example, it's been expressed that people are from Pakistani Muslim men. Apparently that would come across as racist.
Well, if you're a witness for any crime, you have to describe the person. So if you say a white man who is 6 foot tall attacked me, that's not racist against the white people. It's just describing what they are. So since when is describing a Pakistani, Asian Pakistani Muslim man, why is that far right? That's just describing him as if he was anything else.
Well, police turned blind eye, council turned blind eye because they didn't want to become racist. And they simply watched over 1,000 girls are being used, abused, and made money off. And even some of them are being burned alive, like they killed people. But still, you don't want to come across as racist. Therefore, you just turn blind eye. Sister, any thoughts you would like to add at this stage?
He mentioned for the purposes of social cohesion, that they didn't want to make a fuss about these perpetrators being Pakistani Muslim men. So social cohesion means, according to them, or according to the authorities, that people from other cultures can come here and rape children and we just have to get along with it. That's social cohesion. Is that definition of social cohesion?
Well, you are the English person, but that fits to me.
That's ridiculous.
But don't you remember, there was this rape case. A man raped a child, Muslim man, and it's been judge said like it is okay in his culture. Therefore, you just let him go.
Social cohesion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So we make sure we got the right definitions. Sadly, sad, just sad. It's been expressed like up to today, no one is being kept accountable for it. That should all shake our heads. No one kept accountable for it. Why? Because if you talk about criminals, apparently you become racist now. Let's continue.
But over the years, he kept encountering similar stories about Asian men targeting teenage girls outside school gates. He admitted later that a story about ethnic minorities targeting white girls felt like a far-right fantasy. Liberal guilt kicked in, so he wrote one story and dropped it. But over the years, he kept encountering similar stories. His conscience nagged him, and in 2010, he began to research court records. What he found was a pattern. Abusers would meet girls in public places. They would give them gifts or take them out on joyrides until they felt like the man was their boyfriend. Then they'd give them alcohol or drugs and rape them.
Okay, let's pause here. Sister M, we got we heard how those girls are being picked up and how they've been kind of groomed. Any thoughts? As this happens at school gates, by the way, in Britain at school gates.
This is the typical perpetrator's method of gaining the vulnerable child's trust. And in order to get their trust, they would buy them things and ply them with alcohol and all sorts of things like that, so that then that child thinks, oh, they really like me. These are vulnerable children. Most of them also later on in the documentary talk about being bullied at school and not having friends. Therefore, anyone paying them attention is appealing. And that's how they get stuck in these awful situations.
And they see those people as their boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And then he loves me, I love him. It's all done deal. Beloved, any comments on how those girls are being picked up from the schools and used?
I've noticed, sister, that it's Asian, well, Pakistani men and white girls. Why are they only picking up white girls? What is it in their thinking that's stopping them from picking up all girls of all? Why are they not picking up Muslim girls too? If, you know, there is some ideology there behind it. And the man said Asian or Pakistani men going after white victims sounds like a para fantasy. Well, it isn't. It's a reality. It's no fantasy. This was happening. So my question is, why not all girls? Why just white?
Of course, we don't want anyone to think at this stage Muslim girls are like so modest. Therefore, no one is approaching them. Please don't think that at all. Because I have seen how Muslim girls act outside of the schools with those boys. So would you agree with me that maybe it is something from the Quran,
Yes.
the way they treat non-Muslims, the way they can use and abuse non-Muslims? So
Yeah.
they've got already dress code for Muslims and non-Muslims.
Yes.
Muslim is the one who is covered, and non-Muslims are there to be abused because they are not covered. Surah 33 verse 59. And then of course prostitution is okay. Couple of years ago, I've been in one of the court hearing of the grooming gangs, and Mr. Muslim was expressing they are like dirty lollipops because they are not covered. They are dirty lollipops. They are asking for it.
Yes. Surah 33, verse 59. Bring down over themselves their garments. That is more suitable. They will be known and not be abused. That means if there is no outer garments, the hijab, they're fair game to be abused. That's why they're targeting the white girls and not hijabi girls. There are no hijabi girls that are victims of these men, sister.
Yeah, and then also we will hear in the documentary, it's been expressed like, yes, they've been picked up because they're not Muslims. There is similar thing happened in Sikh community as well. Kind of because of the shame and honor culture, we didn't get to hear that much about it, but they were also attacking the Sikh girls.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I continue?
Yes. Yes.
White fantasy. Liberal guilt kicked in, so he wrote one story and dropped it. But over the years, he kept encountering similar stories. His conscience nagged him, and in 2010, he began to research court records. What he found was a pattern. Abusers would meet girls in public places. They would give them gifts or take them out on joyrides until they felt like the man was their boyfriend. Then they'd give them alcohol or drugs and rape them. Often, they trafficked the girls between their family and friends to be raped by them too. The girls were mostly white, the abusers mainly Pakistani. When Andrew Norfolk approached the authorities, they all refused to speak to him. Finally, he found a group who would speak to him. They were called Risky Business, and they were based in Rotherham. I went there to meet Jane Senior, the former manager of the Youth Project, and the whistleblower who exposed the scandal.
My name's Jane Senior. I'm currently the Chief Exec at a charity in Rotherham that covers lots of different areas. I've been a youth worker for most of my working life, and ended my career with Rotherham Borough Council, manage a project that we called Risky Business Project that predominantly worked with girls that were involved in child sexual exploitation.
Jane helped Norfolk get hold of the serious case review for the murder of Laura Wilson. Aged just 17, she'd been stabbed 40 times by ex-boyfriend Ashtiak Ashgar after she told his family about their relationship. Her body was thrown in a canal, and she was described as the first white victim of an honour killing. But the review revealed that Laura had been groomed and abused by Pakistani men from an early age. With an IQ of just 58, she'd been failed by 15 different agencies responsible for her care. Rotherham Council censored the report, then threatened to use a High Court injunction to stop the publication of uncensored extracts. Jane's...
Okay, I'll pause here. We've got a girl who was 17 years old and got killed. And council finds out she's being groomed. Council finds out she's been raped. And council is very much aware that she's being killed. What happens? They censor it. Life is being lost. And only way that can be fixed is let's make sure everyone shut up about it. They were very much aware that she's been used for men's sexual desire. And they decided they will censor this information. Any thoughts, Sister Em?
It's how can you say this without screaming? It's this so horrible. This is so disgusting. A young girl with an IQ of 58 is clearly not capable of making any kinds of decisions that would be like legitimately learning difficulties. A disabled child essentially is being abused, and no one is protecting this disabled, abused child. Like how it even gets to that.
Beloved?
She wasn't just abused, she was murdered. And I think...
And then they put her body in the river.
Yeah.
It's just like
an animal. I think the authorities that censored the news, they so want the narrative of socially everybody's friends and we're all inclusive. They don't want people to be enraged at that community that has the Pakistani men. And so they suppress their own and allow the truth to be hidden and protect criminals and censor the story and obstruct justice for that. It's kind of it's like a dirty political game when you've got a narrative and you don't want to disturb it. When really justice really should be blind to any color. That's the real irony, is that this is racism. It's racism against their own, indigenous population, isn't it? To protect that race, who are, if this was the other way around, if people were protecting white criminals, everybody would be angry. So how is this any different?
It's just like a child, like child is being sexually used, that child is being killed. A couple of you are asking where is her family. Her family is responsible as well. We will hear from the video actually. When the family stepped in, police shut the family down. We will be hearing from the video that when family stepped in, they've been harmed and they've been hurt and everyone stayed silent. So overall, family failed, social service failed, police failed, and all social service and police failed intentionally. Let's continue.
We're involved in child sexual exploitation.
Jane helped Norfolk get hold of the serious case review for the murder of Laura Wilson. Aged just 17, she'd been stabbed 40 times by ex-boyfriend Ashtiak Ashgar after she told his family about their relationship. Her body was thrown in a canal, and she was described as the first white victim of an honour killing. But the review revealed that Laura had been groomed and abused by Pakistani men from an early age. With an IQ of just 58, she'd been failed by 15 different agencies responsible for her care. Rotherham Council censored the report, then threatened to use a High Court injunction to stop the publication of uncensored extracts. Jane said that the council wanted to present Laura as the victim of an honour killing, rather than admit that she'd been groomed. Risky Business had been set up to help local women at risk of exploitation, but they soon found that Laura's case was not in isolation. Gangs were systematically targeting underage girls in Rotherham. The gangs were organised and violent. One 15-year-old girl was sexually assaulted with a broken bottle. A 13-year-old was found drinking vodka in a house full of men after neighbours reported her screams. Even when Risky Business reported the abuse to the authorities, nothing was done. But they did offer a 12-year-old victim language lessons in the Punjabi and Urdu used by her abusers. To find out what that was like, I needed to speak to one of the victims.
Beloved, any thoughts?
I'm just shocked, sister. I'm just shocked.
So council finds out, actually this is something very common.
Yeah.
And they decided they're going to censor it. And then people hear that there are girls are being physically abused, and we heard the descriptions of that. Yet, abuse still continued.
They have no heart. I don't know what to say.
Neighbors calls to police and then express, I can hear sounds that someone is being harmed, someone is being raped. Children are screaming and nothing happens. Police doesn't do anything, and there is a charity organization kind of tries to do something, yet they've been shut down. Sister M, any feelings, any thoughts?
Yes, this is so hard, sister. Trying not to be angry to make a comment is like my 100% focus right now.
Okay.
We move on.
Let's continue.
Different agencies responsible for her care. Rotherham Council censored the report, then threatened to use a High Court injunction to stop the publication of uncensored extracts. Jane said that the council wanted to present Laura as the victim of an honour killing, rather than admit that she'd been groomed. Risky Business had been set up to help local women at risk of exploitation, but they soon found that Laura's case was not in isolation. Gangs were systematically targeting underage girls in Rotherham. The gangs were organised and violent. One 15-year-old girl was sexually assaulted with a broken bottle. A 13-year-old was found drinking vodka in a house full of men after neighbours reported her screams. Even when Risky Business reported the abuse to the authorities, nothing was done. But they did offer a 12-year-old victim language lessons in the Punjabi and Urdu used by her abusers. To find out what that was like, I needed to speak to one of the victims.
I think it all started when I started secondary school. I was actually targeted and bullied. I met this female on the street because she was really 30 years older than myself. Naively, I started going to her flat, and after a while, I was locked in there for 10 weeks.
The woman who lured Elizabeth to the flat was already a person of interest to the police. She was known by up to 4 different aliases. She had once set up a fake rape crisis centre and a fake hotline to lure children into sexual exploitation. But the police failed to stop her. In fact, they let her continue to work for taxi firms in Rotherham as she tried to set up a cab company for taking children to school.
She started bringing males to the house. That's obviously when things started happening, the rapes and things like that. It was absolutely horrendous. She was very controlling, very manipulative. I was given quite a lot of alcohol. Yeah, I was intoxicated more than I was sober, to be honest. It was the same thing every day. It was so like getting up, getting drunk, the men come in, and that was it. And then it'd start again.
During her horrifying ordeal, Elizabeth came to the attention of Risky Business, a Rotherham Council youth project managed by Jane Senior.
I had a day.
So there is this lady sets up a house by publicizing that this house is here to help the girls who are being raped. So I am here to provide support to you. Girls comes into the house, and by the way, this lady is known to the police. Okay, police know what she does. Girls come into the house, and then he brings men into the house to rape these girls. Police knew about her, but they didn't do anything. Everyone is upset in the room. Anyone wants to share thoughts or comments the way things are working so far?
She's setting up fake hotlines for children, victims, pretending to help and then grooming them. And she's setting up a taxi service for school children to pick them up, just so she can recruit or groom those children. Sister, how many times do you know of police visiting Christian preachers and evangelists at home at 3 a.m?
I know quite a lot.
Do you think this lady was visited by police at any time when she was bringing men to rape these girls?
Well, it's been expressed that she's known to the police. She's drugging these girls. She's bringing men into the house. And we will hear, like in some occasions, police sees what is happening in action.
Right.
But police still allows her to do the job and make money. I don't know. Something doesn't look right.
So instead of the police wasting their time arresting people silently praying outside abortion centers, arresting Catholic priests for having a bumper sticker on the car, and yet there are active rapes of children, they know, and I don't see any harassment by police to these kind of types.
It's not like,
or even
it's just like not even women, it's like kids, you know?
Children.
Kids, they're just kids.
Mm-hmm. This girl she said it started when she just started high school. So for those outside of the UK, in England, that would be age 11.
So from 11 years old, child is being given alcohol, And then man after man would come and rape her. And apparently she's supposed to be in a place where she's supposed to be protected. That's how it has been advertised. Police know about this lady, but nothing. Still, that girl is being raped. That girl is still being given alcohol. Think about it. It's not like, I'm not talking about like in Pakistan where you don't have access to things. I'm talking in Britain, like it's like in Britain, United Kingdom. Police is turning blind eye. Actually, I wouldn't even say this is turning blind eye. This is coming alongside of crime because police knew what this lady is doing and they still haven't done anything about it. Police is coming alongside of the crime in Great Britain. This country's failed and it's just shame, just shame.
A 12-year-old victim language lessons in the Punjabi and Urdu used by her abusers. To find out what that was like, I needed to speak to one of the victims.
I think it all started when I started secondary school. I was actually targeted and bullied. I met this female on the street because she was really 30 years older than myself. Naively, I started going to her flat, and after a while, I was locked in there for 10 weeks.
The woman who lured Elizabeth to the flat was already a person of interest to the police. She was known by up to 4 different aliases. She had once set up a fake rape crisis centre and a fake hotline to lure children into sexual exploitation. But the police failed to stop her. In fact, they let her continue to work for taxi firms in Rotherham as she tried to set up a cab company for taking children to school.
She started bringing males to the house. That's obviously when things started happening, the rapes and things like that. It was absolutely horrendous. She was very controlling, very manipulative. I was given quite a lot of alcohol. Yeah, I was intoxicated more than I was sober, to be honest. It was the same thing every day. It was so like getting up, getting drunk, the men come in, and that was it. And then it'd start again.
During her horrifying ordeal, Elizabeth came to the attention of Risky Business, a Rotherham Council youth project managed by Jane Senior.
I had a database where we had intelligence that we would put in there on a daily basis, and I'd get lots of things that were said to me in meetings, such as these children were consenting, they were making informed choices, they were returning to their abusers, they wouldn't make a good witness if it went to court, and also we were breaching the human rights issue. But it was never the human rights of the children, it was the human rights of the perpetrators.
Elizabeth's abusers were all linked. One of them was the uncle of one of the town's most prolific rapists.
I never left the building, the flat. Yeah, very chaotic for a 14-year-old. I can't tell you how many rapes that I've had.
Despite the known links between rapists, South Yorkshire Police failed to act.
Every time anybody new came into a senior role, we kind of thought, this is it now, something's going to happen, something's going to change. So I'd sit in lots of meetings and I would share all the information, as my staff would. And we had car registration numbers, names, nicknames, addresses, properties of concern. So we kind of collated a raft of that information that we kept, and we kept it in a database. And we get lots of reasons, and people still say to me today, why did they actually do nothing? And
So, lady's collecting information. She's got the details of everything, what is happening. And when it was brought to the attention of the authority, what was the response?
Nothing.
Those kids give consent. Those kids are quite okay to be raped. Those kids say, yes, I am here for you to rape me. That's what authorities said. Sister Anne, can you remember the moments when child is giving consent to such a thing? How can child give? Can you help me to understand?
There's no such thing. And so, as we said before, it's whether or not the child is allegedly, there's no such thing. The child isn't capable of giving consent, even if they've been groomed, tricked into believing that that's what they want to do. They're a child, and by law, you would have to prosecute the person, the adult that is sleeping with a child. It's an adult sleeping with a child, whether it's rape or allegedly consensual because they've drugged up the child so much that it can't respond, which, by the way, is still not consensual. There's no such thing.
Well, authorities thought child was giving consent when men climbed top of a child.
Authorities should know the law better.
Just reminds me another man who is being followed by billions of people called Mohammed, who thought it was all right to climb the top of a child. And now his followers are doing the same thing, climbing top of a child. And then authorities are saying, oh, child is giving consent. Beloved, any thoughts?
You can get a child to say yes to anything. I happen to work with some children, and they're just smiling and innocent and trusting. You have some toys, you speak to them, they say yes to anything. This is evil, sister. It was evil when Muhammad did it, and it's evil when these people are following his example. Because according to that logic, of following, Muhammad, silence is consent. So if you have a sleeping silent child, that's consent. So it's sickening that you're not hearing this from Muhammad, that you're hearing this from the UK police.
It's just, I don't know. Like Lady Expresses, who works for the charity organization and for the council, she says, we've got the details of those people. We know the nickname they go out. We know which house they go, which flat they go, what they do.
Right.
Here's the list. We've got to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then authority turns and then says, well, children are okay with what is happening to them.
It's not okay.
What they should be doing is going into these properties, taking the children away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we will hear on the video, they actually go into the property. They see children are being raped. They see the action and then they just turn away. I don't know what is the other word like beside makes you feel sick.
Yeah, it was so like getting up, getting drunk, the men come in, and that was it, and then it'd start again.
During her horrifying ordeal, Elizabeth came to the attention of Risky Business, a Rotherham Council youth project managed by Jane Senior.
I had a database where we had intelligence that we would put in there on a daily basis, and I'd get lots of things that were said to me in meetings, such as these children were consenting, they were making informed choices, they were returning to their abusers, they wouldn't make a good witness if it went to court, and also we were breaching a human rights issue. But it was never the human rights of the children, it was the human rights of the perpetrators.
Elizabeth.
Okay, I'm going to pause here to kind of make sure we understood what's happening. When she brings up this to attention of the authorities, she's been told that those children, those kids are giving consent. She's been told that those kids are doing informed choices. And those kids won't be good witness if we take this to the next step. And of course, they will breach the human rights of those who are raping those girls.
Makes sense, right?
They're saying those children will not be good witnesses in court. So anyone can attack a child, commit crime against a child. I mean, if children are not a good witnesses in court, then you won't prosecute anyone who's victimizing a child. Yeah. What kind of excuse is that? These people are meant to be trained to interview vulnerable people, children.
If you think in a bigger picture, it's not only one child who is going to say, this is what is happening to me. It is going to be like over 1,000 child are going to say the same thing,
right,
in different shop from different places, but they will give the same names and then they will tell the same story. Apparently still, even it's like 1,000 kids, still it's not a good witness. They won't make good witness. That means like, please, like, don't think that gives you any right to abuse a child because police will side with you. I know it seems Muslims are able to get away with this in this occasion. Pakistani Muslims are able to get away with this. Oh, because police is going to side with me, not with the kids. Therefore, I can rape kids, I can abuse them, I can do whatever I want to do with them. I can put them into the prostitution. That's just wrong. Just disgustingly wrong. You've got all the information. Only thing you need to do is like take action. And what you do is you get rid of the information. Shame on this country.
Abusers were all linked. One of them was the uncle of one of the town's most prolific rapists.
I never left the building, the flat. Yeah, very chaotic for a 14-year-old. I can't tell you how many rapes that I've had.
Despite the known links between rapists, South Yorkshire Police failed to act.
Every time anybody new came into a senior role, we kind of thought, this is it now, something's going to happen, something's going to change. So I'd sit in lots of meetings and I would share all the information, as my staff would. And we had car registration numbers, names, nicknames, addresses, properties of concern. So we kind of collated a raft of that information that we kept, and we kept it in a database. And we get lots of reasons, and people still say to me today, why did they actually do nothing? And I can't give you the absolute answer to that. All I can tell you is what they said at the time. The children were consenting. The children wouldn't make good witnesses if they went to court.
But Elizabeth's suffering was not consensual. She was being exploited by a ruthless gang of rapists. Elizabeth took me back to the flat, where she was kept and abused for 10 weeks. Eventually she was freed, but it wasn't the police that rescued her. It was risky business.
I walked out of there 5.5 stone. Loads of marks. I was just a skeleton, really. I came out, my childhood had been stolen.
The police had multiple opportunities to investigate the woman who lured Elizabeth to the flat. They knew that she was a facilitator of child sexual exploitation, but they failed to act.
They keep saying it's missed opportunities. I don't think so. They let her get away with murder.
Elizabeth's story didn't end after she was rescued from the flat. She had been freed, but her nightmare continued.
In Clifton Park, that we used as a central point to getting drunk, men just being around all the time. There'd be all sorts going off in that park. It was one of the biggest hotspots in Rotherham for people committing this crime. Grooming is like a postcode lottery. So once one's got your number, everybody's got your number. Just men ringing all the time, you know, the phone would be going off like, 30 to 50 times a day with different people from different areas.
Some of these children, as adults, are still living with that absolute emotional trauma that nobody believed them and nobody acted. The most common thing that we were told is these children were lying because their stories were so far-fetched they had to be lies. These were children that might have, had petrol porn on them, been trafficked, had been gang raped. How do children lie about that?
So how had the gangs been able to get away with it for so long? Some of the evidence pointed directly at Rotherham Council.
They identify such a thing simply missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Children's lives in tatters. They're now adults still dealing with the trauma of what they went through. And it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
A missed opportunity is if you miss the bus. They had a database full of addresses and names, nicknames,
Registration numbers,
car registration numbers. It's not like they missed them just passing by. It's evil system, and those police enablers and council enablers, they're evil on purpose because they didn't want to be seen as racist. Let's be honest. It's not no missed opportunity. They missed those on purpose, and they omitted to act on purpose. Like all those databases, that should have been the job of the police to do that. Why is there a random charity doing that because of the demand for it when the police should have been doing that? And then they get the information on a platter and they say, oh, children are lying.
Yeah, like you made actually a good point. She's not being rescued from that house by the police.
No, where's the youth worker?
Youth worker, like risky business organization, is the one who rescued her, not the police. It just helps me to kind of like, okay, police is not my friend if I need a help. But it is police supposed to be my friend when I need help.
So my tax money is going. My tax money is not going to that organization, is it? Risky business. I mean, I wish I could pay them instead of the police if that's how it is.
That will be under your council tax, probably.
Yeah, I'm paying the police for them to say, oh, victims are lying.
Such a shame, like disgustingly shame. Police missed opportunity for thousands of girls, even though they had registration number, their nicknames, who is kind of doing what, who is participating what, and still they did nothing. Actually, they did something. They just turned blind eye and let those girls to be raped. They came alongside of criminals.
In 2000, taxi driver Jahangir Akhtar facilitated a deal between police officer Hassan Ali and career criminal Arshid Hussain. Arshid had kidnapped and raped a girl of 14. He agreed to hand her over to the police at a petrol station. In return, the police wouldn't arrest him. A few months later, taxi driver Jahangir...
Okay, let's just get this right, okay? I need help to understand. A man, okay, kidnapping a girl, raping a girl, and then making a deal with the police saying, I will give this girl back to you You just forget me. Did I understand that correct, Sister Anne?
I don't know, because it doesn't make sense, right?
You would expect, okay, there is a crime, kidnapping a child,
Kidnap and rape of a child.
raping a child, making a deal with the police. Those are all should be crime. And then this gentleman says, well, I'm going to give this girl to you. You just don't do anything to me. And then police is okay with that. You are being raped. You are turning to the police with your rapist, and then police is just, okay, Mr. Rapist, you can go. A criminal is making a deal with the police for value and dignity of a child. Beloved?
Just shows you who's in control. This is when they're in the minority. That they exert that kind of power and control over the police, that they can rape girls and kidnap girls, and you're gonna let me go. That's the deal. I mean, I don't know who's in
charge
control
there,
here.
yeah.
Muslims are in charge there.
Mm-hmm.
Criminals are the one who is in charge.
Yeah. And why? Why is the police being such dhimmis to them? Saying, okay, then, so they took the girl and said, I'll see you later. Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want to go to a cafe?
Cookies?
You
Yeah,
want, have a
cup
chat?
of tea and biscuits.
Or do you want us to give you a lift to where you need to go? Is that what they said to the criminal?
Once I was desperately needed help from the police. It was middle of the night. Not only they didn't give me a lift, they said, get the names of those people. They didn't even give me reference number. Versus a child is being kidnapped and raped and making a deal with the police. Criminal is making a deal with the police.
In 2000, taxi driver Jahangir Akhtar facilitated a deal between police officer Hassan Ali and career criminal Arshid Hussain.
Hassan Ali looks very, very British name, don't you think so?
And so is Arshad
Yeah.
Hussain.
They're probably Mormons.
Yeah, they are probably Mormons.
Maybe the Japanese.
Hassan is very British name, very British name. Mohammed is very British name.
Why are all there these Muslim names? Why is that?
Arshid had kidnapped and raped a girl of 14. He agreed to hand her over to the police at a petrol station. In return, the police wouldn't arrest him. A few months later, taxi driver Jahangir became a Labour councillor. Over the years, he would rise to become the deputy leader of the council and vice chair of the police and crime panel.
Okay, in case we missed it. Okay? So, a person, okay, knows that someone kidnapped and raped a child, okay, goes to the police and then says, well, I will help you to get the child, but you don't take any criminal action for the crime. And that person, what happens to that person? The one who makes the deal. He starts working for the council.
Very respectable too.
He started working for the council. He started working for the council.
He's the one who made the deal to let the rapist go.
Yeah, and then works for the council now.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Well, that's because of his integrity, you see.
What kind of integrity is that?
The integrity that suited this council that was already letting down all these children and allowing them to be abused and killed and tortured.
I just can't get past the names.
The Mormon
Mr.
names.
Hassan.
All those Mormon names are like one family or something. They all sound like the companions of the Prophet's names. They're all
The grandson of Muhammad. Like put that together, like a man who is like being part of this criminal and letting criminal to go, being part of this crime and letting criminal to go, or making that deal becomes someone who makes money from my tax money.
and is meant to
The
serve
council tax is £111, a lot of money every month.
serving the community, sister. But you say it's crime, but to them it's not a crime.
Well, to them it was a reward, like since they got, and then first they start working for council, and then they are becoming part of the political party.
Social cohesion.
Social cohesion.
Facilitated a deal between police officer Hassan Ali and career criminal Arshid Hussain. Arshid had kidnapped and raped a girl of 14. He agreed to hand her over to the police at a petrol station. In return, the police wouldn't arrest him. A few months later, taxi driver Jahangir became a Labour councillor. Over the years, he would rise to become the deputy leader of the council and vice chair of the Police and Crime Panel, which oversaw South Yorkshire Police. More evidence of incompetence by local authorities was uncovered when journalist Andrew Norfolk saw a series of reports from 2001 to 2006. They catalogued the activities of grooming gangs in Rotherham. One of those reports was written by solicitor Adele Weir, who was asked to conduct a Home Office study on child prostitution, based in the risky business offices. But what she found was an abuse ring centred around Arshid Hussain. She found at least 270 victims, 18 of them named Arshid as their supposed boyfriend. Despite collecting the names of suspects and details on their crimes, the police failed to act, even though the rapists were also dealing drugs.
So no longer was it risky business, the youth workers saying it, the children saying it. Now somebody that would been paid to actually review the police files, the council files and risky business files and health files, actually put together a report to say this is happening.
In 2001, Adele went with a young girl who'd been raped to report it to the police.
Yeah, so one of our children just made the decision that she couldn't take it anymore, she'd had enough, and she was willing to speak to the police. So Adele made the decision that she'd actually take her to the police station and support her through that, speaking to the police.
While at the police station, her main abuser contacted her to say that he had her 11-year-old sister. The gang had already broken her brother's legs. Frightened, she dropped the complaint, saying, "You can't protect me." How the abuser found out that she was in the police station has never been explained.
Okay, let's pause here. Now, they decided, okay, we need help from outside. We are going to hire someone who is going to look at all those informations. And then someone, that means like, okay, it's going good. Like they are going to do something about it, okay? At this stage, this young girl decides to go and then seek help from police. What happens?
She gets a message.
Not a message, she gets a call.
Call.
From whom?
From her abuser.
So she's at the police station. The one who rapes her calls, "I've got your sister in my hand. And then, by the way, we broke the legs of your brother." That's it.
But the girl was right. They can't protect her. Or maybe they won't protect her. It's probably more accurate than...
Well, like the narrator said, how did her abuser know that she was at the police station?
And how come police let that person go? Because that person came there. I'm gonna report a crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's a child. Police you would expect police to sit down and then, okay, tell me what's happening. Tell me what's happening. But no, if you don't want to report, go. There is someone at home who is harming the family of this child.
And they're also not afraid to call her while she's at the police station because they know the police are a bunch of cowards. You know?
You would expect them. Like, I don't know, I grew up in a society where like you are afraid of the police. But in here, actually, like police come alongside of you and then helps the criminal. You should be afraid of them as well.
Yeah.
But in here, like wrong police is friend with wrong person.
We'll look at the previous incident that he described, where the girl was kidnapped and raped, and the abuser, and known to the police, calls up a police officer and says, well, I'll give her back to you at a petrol station, but you don't arrest me. And the police officer says, okay. So police were in on it.
Doesn't look good. Shame on Britain. Shame on councils. Shame on police. And of course, shame on Islam and shame on Muslims for abusing those kids.
And risky business files and health files actually put together a report to say this is happening.
In 2001, Adele went with a young girl who'd been raped to report it to the police.
Yeah, so one of our children just made the decision that she couldn't take it anymore, she'd had enough, and she was willing to speak to the police. So Adele made the decision that she'd actually take her to the police station and support her through that, speaking to the police.
While at the police station, her main abuser contacted her to say that he had her 11-year-old sister. The gang had already broken her brother's legs. Frightened, she dropped the complaint, saying, "You can't protect me." How the abuser found out that she was in the police station has never been explained. When Adele Weir complained to the police, she was told to never do it again.
Adele wrote the letter to the Chief Constable. We ended up being called into Rotherham Police Station and spent about an hour being trapped like naughty schoolgirls while the district commander and other people that were in the room just shouted at us and said it was inappropriate and people like us didn't write to Chief Constables.
Deterring.
Did you pick that up? So, okay, this girl cannot report what's happening and then express the police that actually you can't protect me because like right now my brother's leg is broken, my sister is in their hand, you can't protect me. And youth leader and her team is being called into the police station.
Wow.
And then what they were told, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention.
Nope.
No, never do it again. That's what they've been told. Never bring those victims back into the police station again. Never come alongside of the victims. Never do it again. Any thoughts?
I don't know why we're paying these people. They're just like another wing of the mafia, if you think about it.
No, mafia has a dignity, sister. Mafia
wouldn't do this.
Mafia protects for
Their
those who
own.
pays him.
Yeah.
You pay police. Does
They
police
don't.
protect you? Police
No.
doesn't protect me. They told me they are not my bodyguards.
Well,
They didn't protect kids. Will they protect me? No. Mafia, you pay mafia. Mafia protects you.
right,
If you don't pay them, they come after you.
right.
Those kids, their family pay taxes. So mafia is better in this occasion. Nothing personal.
No, it is. At least they have rules. I mean, so it's not okay for this charity to write to the chief constable. Write. to the
Yeah.
chief
Why
constable.
is it inappropriate to write to a chief constable?
Yeah, why? They're just writing. They're not handing over kidnapped victims at a petrol station. They're just writing a letter. That's not appropriate. But
No.
making deals with rapists and letting them go is appropriate.
Yeah.
Mm.
So they are not saying the rapist never do it again.
No.
They're not saying the person who kidnapped the child never do it again. But to people who are trying to help those victims, never do it again.
If a child's legs has been broken somewhere, and another child has been kidnapped belonging to that family, why aren't they rushing there? They could trace back the phone call. We know they can do that. Trace people's phones
Yep.
to find out where they are.
We ended up being called into Rotherham Police Station and spent about an hour being trapped like naughty schoolgirls while the district commander and other people that were in the room just shouted at us and said it was inappropriate and people like us didn't write to chief constables.
Deterring victims from accessing support wasn't the only way that justice was obstructed.
Where Risky Business were based and accessing our office was nigh on impossible. We had files that went missing, the laptop and the computer never went missing, just Adele's paperwork and also some minutes of a meeting that Adele had attended had been changed to a different day on the computer.
Who was responsible has never been explained. But with the Risky Business security procedures, the break-in had all the hallmarks of an inside job. The intruder was almost certainly someone working for Rotherham Council. Following her revelations, Adele was suspended, then barred from conducting further research or meeting victims until her contract ended. One count.
Wow. This is great.
They hire someone to look into these things. This someone puts all this information together, supports the victims to go to the police station and report these horrendous crimes, and then this someone gets suspended and told never to go near them or anything again.
It's not only that, miraculously someone gets to the files.
Oh, the
Files
files.
becomes missing.
Mhm.
Informations in the minute of meetings are changes. Evidence are becoming no evidence at now.
It's a cover-up. So we need to ask why the cover-up and by whom and to whose interest is it?
Clearly not the interest of kids.
No, but why? Why? Are they being paid by the grooming gangs? What's going on? And who was fired for doing that? Nobody.
Nobody.
Council official told her never to refer to Asian men in her report. Procedures. The break-in had all the hallmarks of an inside job. The intruder was almost certainly someone working for Rotherham Council. Following her revelations, Adele was suspended, then barred from conducting further research or meeting victims until her contract ended. One council official told her never to refer to Asian men in her report and booked her on a 2-day equality and diversity course.
Talk about not liking the contents of a report, so rather than act on the information in the report, let's go for the writer.
Okay, so you put the report together and then you identified those are the Asian men are doing this kind of things, and then there are victims, there are children who are being kidnapped, who are being raped, who are being passed around. And then how it ends up, and who is involved with these things are Asian men, and you end up in equality course, because you identify the criminals as Asian men. In this occasion, it's Pakistani Muslim men. So you need to go to take the class now
Well, sister,
to learn how to be equal.
No, sister, I believe that you've used the term Asian men and Pakistani men too many times in that sentence.
Oh.
So we have to book you on an equality course.
Yes, I need to take this equality course.
Maybe they should get the rapists to take an equality course. So they should just stop going just after white. Diversify the victims for everyone. I mean, why is it just one way? I mean, this is ridiculous, sister. So in the course, they'll tell her, when you come to describe the perpetrator, if they all are Pakistani men, don't say they're all Pakistani men.
Yeah.
I don't know how well. Just say they. Don't mention their gender either. Gender is a problem now too. You know what? Just
don't assume a gender.
Say they're just beings.
Like,
what is this nonsense?
You are stating facts, and then you end up being in equality course.
The equality course means that you're not being racially sensitive. Slap on the wrist and you're a racist.
I should take that equality course.
Of an inside job. The intruder was almost certainly someone working for Rotherham Council. Following her revelations, Adele was suspended, then barred from conducting further research or meeting victims until her contract ended. One council official told her never to refer to Asian men in her report and booked her on a 2-day equality and diversity course.
Talk about not liking the contents of a report, so rather than act on the information in the report, let's go for the writer.
Abandoned by those sworn to protect them, the fathers of some victims took matters into their own hands, only to find themselves being blocked by the authorities while the rapists went unpunished. I met with Jack, Elizabeth's father, who tried to rescue her from her 10 weeks of hell.
I phoned my daughter's worker, explained what had gone off. She told me not to go back to the flat. I said, no, I'm going, I've got to get her out. She turned around to me, and I have had some stick over this, asking why does a father leave his child in an house where she's being abused. She said, what it is, if Elizabeth or any other girls are in that flat, are not in that flat, sorry, and you'll go in, wherever they are, you're putting them at risk. And I went, what do you mean at risk? She went, serious harm or even death. You're going to risk getting your daughter killed and other people's daughters killed.
Continued revelation.
A father goes to rescue her daughter, and he was simply told, stop, don't do it, because you will put the life of other victims in danger, as well as they will kill your daughter. Where is Mr. Policeman?
Apparently we live in the jungle system where, you know, the Muslim mafia has got these girls kidnapped, locked up in a house. Oh, don't go rescue them. Worse things can happen. It's already bad enough, but we don't have a police. We don't have anyone to protect us in this mafia world that we live in. So a dad can't even go and rescue his own daughter. Or even he should be calling the police to do it. The police should be rescuing her. I don't know.
Emma, any thoughts?
I was walking down the road one day and I saw about 3 or 4 police vans, a whole bunch of armed police jumped out. They ran to a house, I actually saw it, they bust open the door. So it's not just like the movies, it's exactly like the movies, but actually happens. You can do that. Why can't police do that? I've seen them do that. With my own eyes, I've seen them do that. It's not just in the movies that they do that, where they break down the door and go in and arrest people. Get out, get out, get out! And shout at them. It's very simple. You don't even need a warrant.
You don't want to be called racist.
Or social cohesion.
Because the social cohesion would be affected if they rescued some girls from rape.
Being abused. She said, what it is, if Elizabeth or any other girls are in that flat, are not in that flat, sorry, and you'll go in, wherever they are, you're putting them at risk. And I went, what do you mean at risk? She went, serious harm or even death. You're going to risk getting your daughter killed and other people's daughters killed.
Continued revelations about Rotherham outraged the public. Keir Starmer, then Director of Public Prosecutions, said that a generation of girls had been failed. Under pressure, Rotherham Council commissioned social worker Alexis J to lead an inquiry. It found that a conservative estimate of 1,400 girls in Rotherham had been raped over 2 decades by the gangs. It found that the council and police had turned a blind eye. It also confirmed that most of the abusers were Pakistani, despite making up only 3% of the town's population. There are also local Pakistani girls who are abused, but they often refuse to speak to the police for fear of damaging their marriage prospects. In the aftermath of the report, many of the council's leaders resigned. The inquiry was on the front page of 10 British newspapers and made news worldwide.
And then we all know that day in August 2014 when Alexis J's report came out. It weren't even national news, it weren't international, it were worldwide news. And the world woke up to what we are now probably known as the worst child abuse scandal in the modern world.
With the council in disgrace, the government commissioned civil servant Louise Casey to investigate. The 2015 Casey report discovered a council in denial, refusing to believe that 1,400 girls in the town had been abused. The report blamed political correctness for the council's failures. Statistics on ethnicity were removed. Pakistani taxi drivers were described as men of a certain ethnicity engaged in a particular occupation.
So they hired someone to kind of explain what's happening. Everything has been explained. Approximately 1,400 girls are being raped and sold into the prostitution, and then Pakistani men pass them around, okay? Council didn't believe, oh, this can't be. New report comes out a couple of years after that. Expresses that council is failing with the political correctness, and then decides to do a little bit changings. What do you think about those changings?
The report blamed political correctness for the council's failures. Statistics on ethnicity were removed. Pakistani taxi drivers were described.
So now you don't need to say how many Pakistani men was using those girls for their sexual pleasure and passing them around. You remove all of them, and instead of saying Pakistani men, they become God knows what. Men of a certain ethnicity engaged in a particular occupation.
I think they dropped the ball here, sister. Because
you think they dropped the ball here? They dropped the ball like ways back.
No, because they said men. So really, they should have said persons of a certain ethnicity engaged in a particular occupation. That would have been better.
Can you see, like, they can't even say Pakistani Muslim men anymore. They can't even say that.
It could be anyone. That doesn't help anything.
It could be like Japanese.
It could be certain ethnicity. Could be anything.
It could be Americans.
Yeah. It could be. It Could be Guatemalans.
Yeah.
Like particular occupation. It could be butchers. It could be bakers.
Candlestick makers.
What kind of report is that?
Silver cleaners. It could be anything.
A report is meant to be specific.
Mhm.
Well, why can't they say it, sister? Why? Why is it a dirty word? So we have here the worst child abuse scandal of our time, of modern times.
Yeah, and then it expressed like it's been all over the international news.
International news. So child abuse scandal is not bad enough word. It's not serious enough. But saying Pakistani and taxi drivers is too bad to write. We have to censor that out. It will
Saying
hurt
Asian
people.
man, apparently.
Or
It's
Asian.
Asian man.
I mean, Asia's
And Pakistani.
Asia's massive. Asia, you go from China to Japan to Southeast Asia, Taiwan.
As soon as you don't touch Pakistan, it's Asia.
But now they can't even say Asia.
Yeah.
Now
They can't even say like
certain ethnicity.
yeah.
Because we don't want to profile them. But they profiled white girls though, and they went after them. It's just one way.
Described as men of a certain ethnicity engaged in a particular occupation. Despite reports going back to the 1990s, only one gang had been convicted. In 2010, with the help of risky business. It was called Operation Central.
What happened then is they called a meeting to discuss the concerns that I'd raised, and a police officer that was there, it was only a young police officer, he decided to put all this intelligence together, put it all onto the police system and take it to his sergeant. I met with his sergeant, Rupert Chang, who I think is Rotherham's unsung hero.
Rupert Chang's operation saw 5 men convicted, but 80 suspects had been identified. Clearly, the police needed to push on, but they didn't.
Throughout that, we was told that Central 2 would come straight after Central 1. And then as soon as Central 1 had ended, we were told there were no more resources, it were too resource intensive, and that was it. But we could have done so much more.
Why did the police and council fail to kick on with their success? Casey's report suggested a widespread culture of denial and ignorance. Social workers accepted it as normal that underage girls were taking drugs, being made to give sexual services, and having pregnancies or abortions.
Since it's been going on since 1990s, apparently now it's normal. It's normal. Teenager girls are being raped. They're just like meeting with the man's sexual desire. Yeah, they are getting abortions. Yeah, it's normal now. Why? Because we've got like over 80 people. We can't deal with them. We are just going to deal with 5 of them, and then we will finish everything. Oh, we can't finish everything. Why? We don't have money. We don't have money for kids.
What do they have the money for, sister? Going after Christians, preachers in the street, arresting them? That's what they have money for, really.
Or putting rainbows in their cars.
Yeah, putting rainbows in their cars.
Sending people to equality courses.
Yeah, those are expensive.
Well, that's where the money went. No one bothered to think about those kids.
So basically, the grooming gangs, they were given the reins to do so much bad that now we don't have the resources to deal with it. So now we're just going to leave it.
Yeah.
People were saying 1970s in the chat, not 90s.
It's just going on for like decades.
Yeah. So it's too much. Just leave it, basically. Yeah.
Think about it, like, if you don't have kid, if you don't have a child, still it will break your heart to hear someone else's child is being kidnapped and raped and then sold into the prostitution. If you have child and then you sat down in a meeting and then heard what is happening to the children in your area, it should make your blood boil.
Yeah. I wouldn't care about money.
Clearly, the police needed to push on, but they didn't.
Throughout that, we was told that Central 2 would come straight after Central 1. And then as soon as Central 1 had ended, we were told there were no more resources. It were too resource intensive, and that was it. But we could have done so much more.
Why did the police and council fail to kick on with their success? Casey's report suggested a widespread culture of denial and ignorance. Social workers accepted it as normal that underage girls were taking drugs, being made to give sexual services, and having pregnancies or abortions. Of one 13-year-old, given alcohol and abused, they wrote, "She needs more appropriate friends and interests to fill her time."
Okay, so in the report, they are talking about a girl who's been sexually abused, passed around.
13-year-old.
13 years old, yeah. And what they decided?
Wonderful conclusion.
More appropriate friends.
Yeah.
So they agree that the friends she has now is inappropriate, the ones abusing her.
Yeah.
The adults abusing her.
So instead of going after those adults,
just change your friendship circle.
Well, thank you so much.
And one
What
person wanted to change her friendship circle. She ended up in police station where she got call from the rapist, which says, "Oh, we've got your sister who is 11 years old child, and then we just broke the leg of your brother. Come home."
Yeah, they can't just change their friends. Are these people mad?
And then, of course, you've got to get some like
interests.
Crochets, learn how to do crocheting, learn how to cook.
Oh, wow.
So you need to fill your time.
They have the freedom to stop being abused and go play basketball or play netball or something. This is our police in the UK, guys. This is our police.
So you turn up the people whom they're supposed to help you, take care of you, protect your rights. And then what you hear is, well, those girls need to change their friendship circle. And then fill their time with crochets.
The girls' parents eventually had to move overseas to escape the menace of their rape gang tormentors. After the Casey report's release in 2015, more arrests were finally made. Arshid Hussain, the rapist who handed over an abused girl to PC Hassan Ali at a petrol station, was convicted with his 3 brothers and his uncle, as well as 2 white women, who lured girls to their homes and pimped them out to the rapists. On the day that PC Ali was told he was under police investigation, he was run over and killed by a family friend.
Not dodgy at all, no. Continue.
Family friend killed him to stop him spilling the secrets. So it's worse than the mafia. Mafia don't kill their family.
Years after he lets the criminal go, now police is going to finally bother to investigate this Hassan Ali. Did you pick up? Like, name is not like Derek Williams. Name is like Hassan Ali, police officer Hassan Ali. And then miracle happens, someone kills him.
By family friends.
Yeah, family friends.
So you know they're all linked. And did you see the criminal? 3 uncles?
Yeah, it's like family ring.
It's brothers, uncles.
Overseas to escape the menace of their rape gang tormentors. After the Casey report's release in 2015, more arrests were finally made. Arshid Hussain, the rapist who handed over an abused girl to PC Hassan Ali at a petrol station, was convicted with his 3 brothers and his uncle, as well as 2 white women, who lured girls to their homes and pimped them out to the rapists. On the day that PC Ali was told he was under police investigation, he was run over and killed by a family friend. Any investigation into his alleged criminality died with him. The National Crime Agency also launched an ongoing investigation into historic abuse in Rotherham, the largest in their history. So far, they have identified 1,510 victims and hundreds of abusers. Another 20 men have been convicted for their crimes in Rotherham alone. The Casey report singled out councillor Jahangir Akhtar for his malign influence after he arranged the handover of the raped girl at the petrol station. The Labour Party forced him to resign. Years later, his daughter was given a job at a council-funded charity, giving her access to a database with confidential information on grooming gang victims. There was no suggestion that she did anything wrong, but victims said there was a potential conflict of interest.
Okay, let's think about this Mr. Muslim. So Mr. Muslim who arranged the handover.
The taxi driver.
Yeah.
Well, he's a counsellor.
Who became a counsellor.
He became a counsellor.
Yeah, so who was like, Hassan Ali, we are going to give you this girl who we kidnapped and then she's been raped. We will pass this girl to you. Just let that person to go. And then he becomes counsellor. And then after a while, he's been forced. It's not like, okay, he acknowledges I've done something wrong, I should resign. He's been forced to resign. But what is the first thing he does?
His daughter.
Put his daughter in the place where he was involved with building, letting the criminals go.
Is the UK run by a family of Pakistanis? Why are all these positions around these girls filled by the same family? You got three brothers and an uncle. You got the Hassan Ali who's in the police who gets killed by his family friend, and now he's linked with this counselor who also happens to have a companion of the Prophet name, with his daughter having access to the victim's information after he's been forced out by the Labour Party from his position.
Runs by the family gangs.
So they're meant to be like, what, 3% of the population? And they're all in these key places.
If you think about it, if 3% of the population is able to get away with such a disgusting actions, what would you expect when they are 5%?
10%.
Or 12% of London is Muslim. Like what do you expect when they become 12%? It's only 3% capable to do this. 3% is capable to buy the police. Under the 3%, of course, like they are capable to buy the police. They are capable to let the criminal go. They are capable to turn blind eye to the kidnap and rape. They are capable to put people in certain positions.
And they're even killing their own.
Yeah.
Before they spill any of their secrets.
Yeah.
I mean,
Another 20 men have been convicted for their crimes in Rotherham alone. The Casey report singled out councillor Jahangir Akhtar for his malign influence after he arranged the handover of the raped girl at the petrol station. The Labour Party forced him to resign. Years later, his daughter was given a job at a council-funded charity, giving her access to a database with confidential information on grooming gang victims. There was no suggestion that she did anything wrong, but victims said there was a potential conflict of interest. After the Casey report revealed council failures, an investigation into the police was launched by the Independent Police Complaints Commission. They found that the father of a girl who was raped in Clifton Park and suffered internal injuries was told by a police officer that he hoped it would teach her a lesson.
Okay.
what is that lesson, sister?
Let's just listen to that again, sister. So let it sink what police is saying to someone.
But victims said there was a potential conflict of interest. After the Casey report revealed council failures, an investigation into the police was launched by the Independent Police Complaints Commission. They found that the father of a girl who was raped in Clifton Park and suffered internal injuries was told by a police officer that he hoped it would teach her a lesson.
A parent whose child has just been brutally raped and is told by the police officer that we hope now that this teaches your child a lesson. and how this police officer survived to breathe another breath. Because if I was that parent, no, you think I'm kidding?
I know you are not kidding, sister.
I don't care who he is.
You know, in certain countries, no need to label which country it is, but when the woman is being raped, first question is, what is woman is wearing?
Right.
Okay. In here, a child is being harmed and raped, and police turns and then says, this would teach her a lesson. What is the lesson?
I don't know what the lesson is. It's a victim blaming, just like it looks like Islam system. They've Islamized the police.
I love to know, like, what was the? Is this like Hassan Ali's brother?
Right, seriously.
It could be. It could be another.
Cousin.
It could be another Asian man of a certain occupation. Ethnic man of a certain occupation. And the policeman who said this. We don't know. I mean, this is insane.
I feel like this is like Hassan Ali's brother or something.
Or his daughter, even.
Like,
we don't know.
okay, now your child is being harmed, raped, abused, and hospitalized. What is the lesson you are gonna learn? There must be something. She's scared, so she doesn't speak anymore. She's scared, she doesn't go to the park anymore. She can't live her life anymore. Why? Because she learned the lesson. There are gangs who are running this country.
But the lesson is for everyone to wear hijab so they're not abused, basically.
No, it's not enough. They had to leave the countries.
Yeah, some of them left the countries, remember?
Their families had to immigrate to different countries to get away from this. Because it wasn't just in one area, as we'll see later on.
I am very serious. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the brother of Hassan Ali.
They found that police officers, finding girls in bed with older men or even in the middle of a sex act, failed to do anything. Worried parents were told that having an Asian boyfriend was just a fashion accessory their daughters would grow out of.
So, police turns up in a room where old man is having sex with a child. Okay, they are having sex. And just police leaves that and goes back. There is no like, stop, that's underage child. Actually, no. Police steps in and then say, well, it is not fashion for white girls to have Asian Muslim man as a boyfriend. It doesn't say Muslim man, of course. There is like, these words are like script these days. It's fashion. Like, it's fashion you wear. What kind of handbags people buy?
Louis Vuitton.
Huh? Anyway, it is fashion you buy the
Prada.
Yeah, it's fashion you buy such a handbags. It's fashion you buy new jumper from, I don't know.
Next.
From Marks and Spencer or something, wherever these like clothing shops are. That's fashion. It can't be fashion when child is having sex with an older man.
Yeah, I don't care where they're from, the moon or anything.
Even they are like Superman or like whatever they are, like visiting from moon, they're aliens. Doesn't matter.
If they're an adult and they're with a child, that's illegal. Full stop. End of story.
Well, police doesn't say that's illegal. Police says this is fashion. They will grow out of it.
But they're not having a boyfriend. They're being locked in a house for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Kidnapped and locked up somewhere.
And being drugged, and then people are climbing top of them. But apparently police says, like, this is like officers are saying, the one like whom's supposed to look after us, whom's supposed to protect the law. Well, it is fashion. I'll just go and get my new white girl from the school. It's a fashion.
It's funny that the police here say Asian because they see a pattern. They've seen that they're all older and they're all Asian. So they said, well, you know what? Maybe there's no crime here. Maybe it's just fashion that these girls are being abused, picked up outside the school gates by these older boyfriend. It must be a fashion among
They
them.
might be thinking, this is very normal in Pakistan. This place looks like, even the 3% of like Pakistani, this place looks like little Pakistan anyway. Let those girls to be raped and abused, and then we just turn blind eye. Like, police saw them in action. And then just like, okay, see you another time. See you in the kebab shop.
There were 265 allegations of misconduct, with 91 investigations involving 47 officers. Of those, only 5 suffered any penalties. Nobody was fired.
Did you hear those numbers?
47.
Yeah, so over 200 allegations to the policies, 47 of them investigated, only 5 of them, but 5 of them kind of being dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
But
fired.
no one got fired.
Well, if it's a fashion, sister, maybe it's fashion for me to be, robbed and mugged and I don't know that what else. So police thinks it's a fashion to be abused. So no
Isn't
wonder.
it fashionable also to do drugs, so they shouldn't bother to arrest people for, doing drugs or selling drugs? It's fashionable, right?
Yeah.
That's a fashion.
Yeah, that would be fashion.
Yeah. It's also fashionable to like break into places and steal stuff. Like it's a phase, it's a fashion. They shouldn't bother doing anything about that either.
Yeah.
It would be fashion to stab people.
Yeah.
Because, it's a fashion that these young kids are carrying around these knives, so you shouldn't arrest them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also fashionable.
Well, if crime is fashionable, we don't need police.
Yeah.
I mean...
So you want your money back?
I do. It's fashionable.
From now on, I decided I'm not
we
gonna
can buy some fashion.
I'm not gonna do anything which is fashionable.
I learned fashion lessons from you today, sisters.
It wasn't fashion lesson like this, sister.
It was like...
Apparently, you can't wear an open toe shoes with certain... I mean, that's fashion, how to pair shoes and clothes. But you didn't tell me about crime, and that is fashionable.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know, like, older men to rape white children. It's fashion. I didn't know that.
Who knew?
Well,
Police knew.
Police knew. Police is sharing that information.
And that will teach her a lesson.
Yeah. See? Fashion. Fashion becomes very dangerous. It wasn't only expensive, now it's dangerous.
Told by a police officer that he hoped it would teach her a lesson. They found that police officers, finding girls in bed with older men or even in the middle of a sex act, failed to do anything. Worried parents were told that having an Asian boyfriend was just a fashion accessory their daughters would grow out of. There were 265 allegations of misconduct, with 91 investigations involving 47 officers. Of those, only 5 suffered any penalties. Nobody was fired.
They are still police officers, okay?
Yeah. I wonder what the penalty is.
I'm not saying anything. But when you go to the police station, just think. They might be one of the police officers who is brother with Hassan Ali. Just think about it when you go to the police.
To find out why nobody in the police had been punished, I went to see the only whistleblower to resign from the police over the rape gang's cover-up. My name is Charlie Peters. I'm a journalist and documentary filmmaker with GB News, and I'm investigating the national grooming gang scandal. We've seen what happened in Rotherham, where over 1,500 girls were sexually exploited. I want to know why the police looked the other way, despite years of evidence.
I couldn't get any answers. All I was told was that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute.
I was raped over 1,000 times and I don't even know how many men assaulted me. It's impossible to recall. It was just so constant.
To understand why they failed so badly, I'm going to Manchester, where in Rochdale, a similar scandal took place. I'm meeting with the only whistleblower to resign from the police over the grooming gang's cover-up.
Well, in 2004, I was approached and asked to join, to go on board with a job that became known as Operation Augusta. And this was we had a little girl who had died in Rochdale, who had been groomed, sexually abused. I was asked to go on an investigation to look at whether we had a problem in Greater Manchester with young white children being groomed and sexually abused by gangs of Pakistani men.
Greater Manchester did have a problem with grooming gangs. The little girl who died, Victoria Agoglia, was 15 years old when in 2003 she was groomed by a rape gang and then killed by a heroin overdose given to her by an abuser.
We had dozens of young, very vulnerable children who were mainly they were all living in care, who were being systematically groomed and raped by gangs of Pakistani men.
Over 18 months, Maggie and her team compiled a compelling case against the gangs they knew were operating in Rochdale. But she had to take a break from the investigation when her husband fell terminally ill.
And at that point, we had 100 paedophiles on a database that we knew were raping children. We had about 3 dozen children that we had identified as being abused.
Okay, so we've got police officer who was police officer before, steps in and then puts the name of 200 Pakistani men who are simply following the example of Islam, attacking those white girls, putting them into the prostitution, and then she's got the number of the victims. It seems now like things should be sorted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've got
Evidence
hope.
has been gathered. It's
Yeah.
all ready to go.
So evidence is there. Okay, evidence is there.
So that job was a full singing and dancing major investigation. You know, my job was done and I went off work content and happy to know that those men were going to be prosecuted.
But when Maggie returned from compassionate leave after the death of her husband, she found that Operation Augusta had been closed down. None of the abusers were convicted.
I couldn't get any answers. All I was told was that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute. And I knew, because I had been working on that job from day one, I knew we had the evidence.
The last information placed on the police database for the operation was on the 6th of July 2005, one day before the 7/7 terror attacks in London.
There was a gold level meeting within GMP, and that means the most senior officers in GMP, that they had a meeting and that the decision was made at that meeting that they were not prepared to put resources into that investigation.
So officer spends minimum 18 months, puts the list together of these Pakistani Muslim men who are hunting down, raping and putting these white British girls into the prostitution. Everything is gathered together. She goes to watch her husband dies and then she comes back to work and then she hears that we couldn't do anything because there was no evidence. And then just after, and then 7/7 happens. Another Muslim, Mr. Muslim, decides to take the life of people in London. And then meeting takes place and then they decide, well, we don't have resources to deal with those people who are raping and putting the girls into the prostitution.
Yeah, she knows full well there's enough evidence. She's the one who compiled the evidence. She knew. So this 7/7 thing, they knew that Muslims have just been on the news because they did this 7/7 bombing. They didn't want to increase the public outrage against the crime of another Muslim. Now, this is Rochdale, which is another town. different from Rotherham, and they're still Pakistani men, sister. So there is a pattern here of what all these men believe, how they live, and the result is the same crime. So I just want to put that out there, that this is a different town now.
Yes, so now they're in like Greater Manchester.
Yes, and you got this gold meeting, which means all the top people are saying, "Oh, this is not a good time for the protected group. They've just been caught bombing, the 7/7 bombing. If we release this now, we're trying to prosecute now, oh, the protected group will look even worse. Let's try and contain this and stop this going forward."
So we are quite okay for people to bomb and die. We are quite okay for children to be used for the sexual be used for the sexual pleasure of men.
Right.
But we have to keep silent. Why? Because we don't want protected group to feel unprotected. We've got to protect the protected group.
Yeah.
Sister M, any thoughts, any feelings?
None that I can say on a live stream.
Okay.
And happy to know that those men were going to be prosecuted.
But when Maggie returned from compassionate leave after the death of her husband, she found that Operation Augusta had been closed down. None of the abusers were convicted.
I couldn't get any answers. All I was told was that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute. And I knew, because I had been working on that job from day one, I knew we had the evidence.
The last information placed on the police database for the operation was on the 6th of July 2005, one day before the 7/7 terror attacks in London.
There was a gold level meeting within GMP, and that means the most senior officers in GMP, that they had a meeting and that the decision was made at that meeting that they were not prepared to put resources into that investigation.
Was it shut down because revealing the grooming gangs just after an Islamist attack was considered too incendiary? We'll never know, because those minutes were conveniently lost. Years later, Maggie was brought back in for a new operation to tackle the gangs.
I'll pause here in a bit because we've been live for 2 hours, 7 minutes, and it's after 10:30.
Mm-hmm.
And we only did 25 minutes of the video. Would you like to pause and then pick up on another live stream? Or would you like to continue?
We can pause and pick it up, sister, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, we pause and pick up from the police part. I'll put the link in the description for you to go and then watch whole video and then get so angry. And then we will take you again some point next week and then watch all rest of it where we left. Sister M, how do you feel just listening again? I know it was painful earlier when we listened and you had to re-listen. How does it make you feel like with this over 25 minutes we listened? What are your take-ons and what do you think went wrong? Why it went wrong?
Well, let's start with the feelings part.
Bring it on, sister.
It's really making my blood boil. There's no other way to describe this. The anger and just absolutely mind blown at how they have let these children down, allowed these children to be abused, and sometimes even in front of their very faces, like it happened, and they just let it happen. These are children and no one protected them. That's disgusting. It's abhorrent. It's a real abomination. Like, this is an abomination. It really is. All of it is an abomination. And to wait, the Islamists have just done 7/7. So, we don't want to mention Islam again because this group seems to be very, very Mormon sounding with their names. It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. Why they would do that? I don't know. I think they actually want people to be like to have racial hatred towards each other. Because frankly, if they had dealt with these people in the first place, there'd be no reason to be like, oh, well, you know, you can't say anything about that group and this group, and then other groups on the opposite side getting even more angry that you can't say certain things about this group or that group. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they deal with these criminals, because they are criminals and they're going against the law, if they deal with these criminals at the time that they've done their crime, I don't care where you're from, Mars or the moon or Jupiter, I really don't care. If you're a criminal, you're going to get prosecuted and sent to prison for a decent amount of time, not like these silly half sentences and this kind of rubbish. Probably most of these idiots, these evil, can't use the words, are probably already out of prison, right? Some of them.
Yeah, some of them are already out.
So clearly they've not served their time. They've not been deported. I've not heard of any that been deported. Any?
No, they couldn't. Apparently, that we paid actually lots of money. I've got how much money we paid for them to do their legal, for them to have legal fight to stay in this country. In one of the occasion, so we are talking about approximately £500,000 for one individual, for example. There was even one story that this gentleman could not be deported because his son needed him to be the role model.
Then take the son too. Get out, all of you out. Because seriously, how do I know that son wasn't even involved in it? Since this wasn't a family affair for a lot of them.
A role model.
Yeah, remember we did that like we looked at some of those numbers. The amount of money we paid for those people to fight their case is quite a lot. So you're not that happy?
Not very happy, no.
No good.
No good.
You need to take that equality course.
Yeah.
Equality and diversity course.
No, I'm fine. I said I don't care if they come from the moon or Jupiter or wherever. They just need to be prosecuted and sentenced properly.
You committed a crime, and then you need to deal with the consequences.
Yep.
And especially crime towards kids.
Mm-hmm.
Beloved, how is your suffering?
My suffering, sister, this is vindication for people who have been saying we need to fight the ideology of Islam. The problem is not that they're Pakistani, let's be honest. The problem is they're Muslim. I didn't see a Pakistani Christian doing this. Their names are Hassans and Muhammads. They all come from different cities, but they all share one thing in common. They all come from Islam. And Islam happens to have a prophet who did this to a 9-year-old. He was engaged to her age 6 and climbed on top of her age 9. And he said, either you cover up or you are abused, in Surah 33, verse 59. He said, prostitution, Allah will forgive you, in Surah 24, verse 33. So if we're going to go for a course on diversity and equality,
and you got Surah 65:4.
And Surah 65:4 about divorcing children. So the course shouldn't be diversity and equality. It should be how to fight the ideology of Islam and show that this is the cause of the evil. And then for any Muslims who have dignity and that hate this evil to leave it, and to show that when people follow it, they become those ethnic men of a certain occupation. It's not ethnic men of a certain occupation. It's men of a certain religion, okay? So that's what it is. As to why our country is complicit and why our police are complicit in it, political reasons, political correctness, people don't want to be called certain labels. Even some of the protected group may be in the police or in high enough places. Surely we got mayors of certain big cities of belonging to those groups, sister. So it's like evil colluding with evil, and the victims are children. So I say, please continue to fight against the ideology of Islam. That's the answer.
Yeah. We do acknowledge that people do crazy things, but in here we've got Muslim people who are following the information or the laws in their own sources. And if in a city where there are only 3% is able to get away with raping over 1,400 kids, imagine when there are 12%. Ideology of Islam destroys humanity. Ideology of Islam puts children in very, very dangerous place. People will fight for their right to stay here. People will do all those crazy things. But ideology needs to be dealt with. And since police officers, Mr. Policeman, fails to do that, councils fail to do that, social services stepped in, somehow they failed, they didn't do their part well, that caused hundreds, thousands of girls to be abused, raped, and sold around. Why? Because we don't want to deal with Islam. And next time when we watch the video, you will pick up this is not something which happened in the past. It is still happening today. It is still happening today. And those of you who listen to today's live stream or who listen this video before we even put up here, you have responsibilities to do something about it. You can't be like Mr. Policeman who turned blind eye when he went into the room and saw those girls were being raped. You can't be the counselors who just say, oh, we don't have money to deal with it, all files are getting lost. You can't be one of them. If you stay silent, you come alongside of that. There are kids who is being harmed. There are kids who is being abused. Maybe today it's someone else's kid, but if you don't speak, tomorrow it's going to be your kid. It's going to be your children tomorrow. Because we let people to get away with whatever, however they want to get away with things. Jesus' reaction with kids, how he deals, how he engaged with children, how he tells his disciples of for kids versus how the followers of Islam deals with kids. So different. Just another reason, don't hang out with Islam. Those puts the life of innocent kids in danger. Anyway, beloved, thank you very much for joining us and going through this pain with us. And Sister M, thank you very much for joining us tonight as well. Really appreciate your inputs. And I'm sorry, those of you who felt it was really, really not good live stream. I'm sorry you felt that, but I'm grateful that you felt it, because watching such a thing and simply being silent about it or not showing any emotion is just coming alongside of what's happening. By God's grace, we will pick up part 2 of this and then finish the video. Thank you for joining us in this live stream. May Christ crucified silently with his love until we see you again.